You know, it's almost like your birthday with a package from China, so let's go. But inside the box we're going to get the same stuff that we've seen a gazillion times. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe because we have a lot of cool stuff coming up. So in here we're going to get ourselves the PlayStation 2 controllers, and they are the better quality ones, particularly when you're looking at the ABXY button. Not the best quality. They have these long travel buttons, they are not great to be honest, but we do have the rubberized joysticks, just basic PlayStation 2 knockoff stuff. Nevertheless, we're going to get ourselves a compartment of two AAA batteries and an on and off switch underneath. So the quality is not bad at all. Both of them will come with a dongle. You can hear it. So you're going to need two USB connections. And then of course the toilet paper manual for the controller itself. In box number 2, then we're going to get ourselves the system. And this is the system that we have seen many times before. And what you're going to get with this particular model is that we're going to get a very strange, let's say, beefcake of an Android box. But that's what they're using. They're slapping some Emulation on it, a piece of software you can just download for free. And they are using it on here. So, but they are going to be like converting this into this very weird looking one. But this is called the Super Console X4 Plus Edition. There are some specifications underneath. It comes with 4 GB of RAM, 32 GB of storage, but the storage is not needed because Emulation will be installed on an SD card. The SD card is in here. Let's take a close look what kind of brand, because there we go. Because sometimes they are having really cheap SD cards. Now having this extreme speed, it looks like a scan disk, and with a scan disk, yeah, they skipped it, absolutely. We're just going to get ourselves like cheap knockoffs. I'll also make a backup if you want to, like have this thing for the long term. We're going to get two USB ports over here, 3.0, 2.0. We're going to get HDMI out, the input for the power supply, and built-in fan. But when looking at this new version, they come with a very nice theme. Nevertheless, it's a very clean theme and everything that looks very nicely, even if you're going to get into the menu itself. But take consideration this new version, if you just want to play all the way up from NES, Super NES to PlayStation 1, the older version can just do that fine. You don't need this new particular version. PlayStation Portable is one of those systems that I wanted to check out, so that's why I'm going to be focusing. Sega Nomi, Dreamcast, Sega Saturn, those are the systems that struggle most of the time with these boxes. Then also we're going to deep dive into some Autonomous Wave. Autonomous Wave has some games like Dolphin Blue that have problems, and that is the thing I wanted to see, just benchmark, and of course some N64 to see how that actually runs, because that's absolutely hit or miss with these game boxes. Besides that, there is a lot of cool stuff they can add to this and actually play. The next thing I wanted to do is pressing start, simply because I want to check into the Emulation settings. Here we can mess around with it. You can check out what's the resolution outputted. Here's the start at boot. You can change it out to Emulation Station or something else. You can mess around with it. There is a lot of cool stuff you can set up. There's a lot of ways you can customize it. It also comes with the emulation itself and the emulators. So that is one of the things I really like about this particular system. But with the system settings, here we can deep dive into the device itself. And I mean in particular when you're looking at the system information. Version 4.6. So over here where we're going to get the storage capacity. The temperature of the device is 35 degrees, so that is absolutely not bad at all. It says over here, the CPU model is the S905X4 Revision C, CPU number 4 of them, and then of course we're going to get the GPU, the Mali G31. So that's basically when it comes to the specifications, but let's deep dive into some gaming and let's see what we're actually going to get with this. So one of the things they do a lot when it comes to certain platforms like PlayStation 1, they don't implement the soundtracks. I think they will do this because it saves up a lot of space, but that's a little bit of a bummer because the music is just the soul of the freaking game. Nevertheless, the games itself, I already mentioned before, on original resolution, it runs just fine. It's a lot of fun seeing these old school games back in the day. I have played this Assault Rigs a lot. But if you're looking into, let's say, some emulation with PlayStation 1 and upscale it, I think those, let's say cheap boxes are not going to be handling it well. Just native resolution, it's just fine. The next system I want to try out is PlayStation Portable. Take consideration, it's always going to be a problem. It even has been set to frame skipping twice. Yeah, that's something we're not going to be accepting. So the next thing, let's see what we're having for options when it comes to overall tweaking. And rendering resolution, just put it on 1 time. And let's see what we're actually going to get with the overall performance. So let's go into the game and let's actually see how it runs. Well, when it comes to PlayStation Portable, it's going to be an absolutely hit or miss. But this particular shmup, we can have a very nice gameplay. We implemented some frame skip to get at least some decent emulation performance. But you need to get into the emulator and mess around with it. That's one thing to be sure. Next up, let's try some N64 with my game Cruise in the USA. So yeah, so when it comes to the overall performance, you already can see that it started glitching. So that's always what it comes to N64. In my opinion, when it comes to these cheap game boxes, they just should remove them. All of the N64 games, or at least most of them, because they will not get great performance. Oh, there we go. My button was stuck with my controller. But you can see like it glitches all over the place. It has slowdowns. No, that is not the way how we want to play. And if you want to play some N64, you just need to get yourself like a cheap mini PC. You're going to get so much better performance in combination with some Battle Zero. Alright, next up, let's try some Atomic Wave. Dolphin Blue, one of the games that had so many problems with previous models. There were even game boxes that they removed the game. I did hear some minor hiccup, but so far so good. And we can actually have some decent gameplay going on. I have no idea where the auto button is. I had a feeling that they completely messed up with the button layout. Let's get into the next part. This is way more crowded with enemies. Yeah, but the button layout of the emulator is messed up. I'm missing out the super move. In other words, there's always something you need to freaking mess up. Okay, the Sega Saturn is one of those systems that is new edition when it comes to these newer boxes. And I can tell you, it's going to be another hit or miss. But I must say that I found it a very surprising overall performance when you're looking at some certain games. And when we're going to play some old school games with Sega Saturn, we're going to get some very good performance. I was quite surprised to see that actually seems to be running great in combination. I think it was the Yaba Senshiro emulator. Native resolution. I do wonder who played it back in the day. I found it such a distraction with all the stuff that's happening on the screen. And also feels more like a Wipeout clone or ripoff. No, I don't really like this game, but it seems to be running just fine. Next up, I want to try some Sega Dreamcast. Depending on the emulator that's actually running, it's not going to be running on higher resolutions. I also noticed when it comes to the overall performance, I had some hit or miss. You can just actually hear that the music is not running perfectly. So Sega Dreamcast is a system that can be played on these game boxes, but the overall performance is not going to be significantly better than all the other models we've reviewed in my opinion. But next up I want to try some Sega Naomi. But you can see that it also struggles on this new generation game box. There is no major difference when it comes to the previous model. The music stutters all the freaking time. It's quite annoying. But in my opinion, when you're looking at the S905 X4, yeah, there's not like a huge, let's say overall as a performance boost, particularly when you're looking at N64, PlayStation Portable, Sega Naomi and all the other stuff. Let me know in the comments what do you think of this. I want to thank you all for watching. This is my pros and cons for the overall of the device itself. Subscribe and it would be great to see you in the next video.